to blame herself, as she said to me, and to weep and to kneel until once while she was in California, suddenly she received a phone call. And she asked, "Who is it?" He said, "I am your son. I am in Los Angeles airport. Please, anyone come and pick me up from the airport." She couldn't imagine what happened. And she discovered how God worked in him. And he said to her, "When I took that flight, I couldn't imagine that I left Cairo in the flight, and now I want to return to the bosom of God." And he is living in the Lord Jesus Christ. I hope truly, and I ask all of you, here in Perth or in any city, if we want our children, our kids, our relatives to return, there is no other way except to weep, to kneel, to make mataniyat, kneelings, and to say it is our faults, not their faults, and surely God will work in them. I believe when we return to God, this is the only way that our families become an icon of heaven. Always when we enter in any family problem, everyone blames the other. In Melbourne, once from about 4 years, when I was in Melbourne, a person said to me, "Can you say a word for my benefit?" I said, "Okay. I ask you, don't sleep while there is any problem between you and your wife." He said, "What you say?" I said, "Don't sleep when you are angry, even when without have any action." He said, "Father, I am married from 15 years. I never said any word. I never become angry just even for 1 minute." And she was not angry also 1 minute. I said, "How is it?" He said, "When something happened, I asked her, 'What do you mean?' She said, 'Oh, I mean so and so.' And the same she said to me, 'What do you mean by that?' I explained the situation. And he said to me, "If anyone in fact is spiritual, nothing can happen in the family." We believe our families are the icon of heaven. Therefore, we do not marvel or astonish that Saint John Chrysostom, in many times, he used to say this statement, which is very famous. The greatest miracle the Lord Jesus Christ made, he changed earth to heaven and men into angels of God. This was his belief. I think he was in touch with this result with his mother and Teresa. And he touched it in his inner life. I am not just a human being. I am not living in Antioch, in Constantinople, in the monastery, in the exile. Never. And any time you ask John Chrysostom where you are, he would say, "I am in heaven." Regardless all the circumstances, I hope truly for myself before I speak to you that I have the same experience of St. John Chrysostom, that we are living in heaven and we enjoying the work of the Holy Trinity in our life, that truly we are in the likeness of the angels of God, but in the likeness of God himself, because we are children of God. The second person who had his effect on the personality of St. John Chrysostom was his friend Basil. John Chrysostom was very, very sincere in his life, and he was very genius when he studied under his teacher Libanius, one of the greatest persons in Antioch. And when Libanius was very sick and they asked him, who will be the successor of you in the school? He said, oh, John. But what I will say, unless the Christian will steal him from us. How is it? He discovered that Anthosa has had effect on his life, and he was very sincere in his study, and he hoped that he will be the leader of the school, which in fact it was not Christian. When he finished his study, he became very famous in Antioch. One of the counselors and many people were looking to him that he will be a very great person in Antioch. At that time, he tried to more and more progress in his work, but unfortunately, he started to admit theaters and fun and so on. Here, his friend Basil, who was his close friend, while he was with him, even in study, because they have the same talents, the same age, the same attitudes, but as he said, Basil became up, I became down because of my evil works. Basil didn't say, oh, he is a bad person, I did all my best. He became very proud, he is in the world, I don't care about him, never. He started to gain him by love. And he said, we loved each other, and he attracted me to devote all my life to the Lord Jesus Christ, so that they made an agreement to leave their houses, the two, and to live together to study the Bible alone. And as he said, they were one spirit in two bodies. This is the friendship. It is not friendship just to go to fun, a party, and so on. No. His friend Basil attracted him to the heavenly life. And he attracted him instead of devoting his life in any worldly situation or position. He attracted him to enjoy the biblical life, the evangelic life, the heavenly life, angelic life. And thus he went to his mother and said, Mom, I decided to go with my friend Basil to devote all my life to study the Bible. She took him to her private room, as he said, and they sat on the bed on which he was born, and said, here you was born, my lonely son. You know how I love you, and no one can love you like me. And she started to tell him how many great men tried to marry her, and she refused. And she devoted her life to Christ and to take care of his spiritual life. And then she said to him, I will never oblige you to leave your friend or to change your mind. I want one thing. Be with me here in this house with your friend Basil and look to this house as yours. I will never push you to work in any other thing. If I asked you to do any other thing, I give you the permit to leave the house. And don't feel guilty when you leave me. he insisted to ask, and he asked his friend to come, and he changed the house into a kind of, we can say, seminary for Bible study, or as a monastery. And their life started to be, or to grow up in the Lord Jesus Christ. Many of the young people in Antioch be attracted to them. Even some leaders from the monasteries came to enjoy the life which John and Basil lived. When they were about 25 years old, two bishops died, and all the people at their area said, "Oh, none can be suitable for this position except John and Basil." Although they were not monks, they were not deacons, they studied the Bible, they lived in the Lord Jesus Christ. I don't want to enter in the details. He, by his own way, left Basil to be a bishop, and he escaped in the mountain. John expected that he will be ordained, and they were together as bishops and so on, because he knows how John Chrysostom was concerned in the salvation of men. The third person who had his effect on him, Bishop Meletius of Antioch. He took him as his own disciple, and he took care of him and took him everywhere for 3 years. And he had his print on his personality. Therefore, we are in need of the atmosphere of our homes to be the atmosphere of heaven. We are in need also that we become friends in a spiritual way, how to attract others to Christ, and also have relationship with priests and bishops or clergymen, not in formalities. Not just, "Oh, Father, can you visit us? Can I serve in the altar?" No. In fact, we have to live as if we are in heaven itself. John Chrysostom, the man of suffering, he discovered from his younghood that church was the icon of heaven. And he used to say that church is the icon or the image of heaven. John Chrysostom also, after the death of his mother, when he went to the monastery, there are many stories how he was taking care of the monks. By what? When he found someone like a person called Theodore went to Antioch, and he looked to a very beautiful lady. She was a Jewish lady, and he loved her, and he wanted to marry her and lived with her in sin. What is the situation of John? He didn't say, "Oh, he is a very bad monk, he is not young, it is his own fault, he left the monastery." Never. He sent to him 2 letters. In these letters he said to him, when the person commits a sin, he is a sinner. When he insists to sin, he is a devil. You have to return, for the Lord is waiting for you. And he opened the gates of hope. When I remember I translated this letter when I think about 1963 or 4. When I read it in English,